Welcome to Daytime Ottawa here on Rogers TV. Another fabulous show ahead. We're going to be talking to the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. They have a great event coming up all month long in January. The Ottawa Humane Society joins us as well to talk about Giving Tuesday right around the corner. Jeanette Ewan with her top 5 holiday hacks. But first we talk, I think it's my favorite meal of all time. Talking charcuterie with our first guest. She is an author and nutritionist. I'm joined by Karlene Karst. Karlene, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for welcoming us into your kitchen, by the way, which is absolutely beautiful. We're talking charcuterie today, and as I said, it's one of my favorite meals, but you wanted to talk about it in a different fashion today.
Well, I think charcuterie can often get a bit of a bad rap. Traditionally, I think it was, intended to be just a selection and assortment of different cured meats, which is fun. But of course, now I know so many people who love to serve up what we would call a graze board or such a thing on a Friday night instead of cooking. So we want to look at ways that we can not only have it taste delicious, but also add in a bit of nutrition as well. And it is completely possible to do both.
All right, well, let's talk about, first of all, the meats, because you mentioned those cured meats, and one thing I imagine we should stay away from is those processed meats. When choosing meats, what should you be looking for?
Yeah, so what's great is nowadays a lot of the delis or more European style delis will offer up nitrate-free meats. And so we want to get away from some of those chemicals that we know are associated with cured and processed meats like bacon and the ham. So if you can, choose up some of the nitrate-free meats. But there's also alternatives for protein. I always like to have some protein on a nice grazed board, especially if it's taking the place of a meal. So we want to make sure that we're, having people feel a little bit full and satisfied. So kind of thinking outside the box a little bit, but looking at things such as spreads and dips, we know, which are popular, like a hummus that comes from chickpeas. So it offers up protein and fiber and some good fats. Roasted chickpeas are also great. So you can buy like roasted chickpeas and they're so crunchy and a little bit salty.
Yeah.
Again, delivering some protein. Some hard-boiled eggs are nice. You'd be surprised. You could think of some of the most obscure choices and you put it on the board and it'll be gone by the end of the night.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what else gets a bad name? Another thing that gets a bad name is cheeses, right? Because people always think, oh, cheese and it's fat, but there's a lot of different nutritional value in cheese, right?
There absolutely is. And if you're only thinking of cheese as being bright orange in color, that's where we maybe need to look and think about some of the actual healthy cheeses that are out there. So on this board in particular, I like to have an assortment of like a soft and a hard cheese. So this is a beautiful brie cheese. I've taken a log of goat cheese, which is actually so good for you and great for people who are sensitive to dairy. And I've rolled it in chia seeds. So then it looks beautiful, looks impressive. And then those chia seeds, of course, pack a powerful punch with fiber and healthy omega-3 fatty acids, and just looks really nice and kind of adds a little bit of crunch to the cheese. So kind of give a variety of cheese options, and it can be nothing but good for you.
Something else that's very popular is pickled and fermented foods. Let's talk a little bit about that, because again, when you're talking, health and in particular gut health, those are two things that are certainly fantastic for gut health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is definitely a trend we've seen towards improving our gut health and taking care of that microbiome. And we know there's so many associations with healthy immunity and happy minds and just feeling great overall. So again, you add in a variety of like soured or pickled or fermented foods to your cheese board, and it will go. I love a combination of doing olives and marinated artichokes, adding in some sauerkraut, which is so European and it tastes so delicious with a beautiful sourdough bread and a spread. And then you can top it with that crunchy kind of sauerkraut, and it tastes so great.
You mentioned bread. Let's talk about that, because again, that's another one I think people find difficulty finding a bread that is or a cracker that is healthy, but there are alternatives, right?
So many different options out there. I mean, if you want to stick to traditional bread, you can use sourdough bread, which is great. I like to give variety. Not everybody has dietary sensitivities, and sometimes it's fun just to give a little bit of both options. Breadsticks are nice. There's so many nutritious crackers on the market, which are also fun and individual. These are brown rice crackers, but you can also get those nut and seed crackers, which are so great, and they taste great with the spreads and the different cheeses.
What about fruits and vegetables? As you said, the charcuterie board, anything goes. Is that something you're seeing more common now as well?
Anything goes, and I actually find that when I do it, I often will make up a whole other platter of veg or fruit and crudities, which are kind of nice on their own, and they make such a beautiful and impressive display. Usually on my charcuterie boards, more the traditional, I'll add in some dried fruits. So trying to stay away from the fruits that contain the sulfites. Those sulfites are really hard for our gut and really hard to digest. So if you want to take a look and add dried fruit, just pick the sulfite-free. Fresh fruits this time of year that are seasonal, things like pomegranates and the blackberries. Pear always looks beautiful on a charcuterie board. And then some of those spreads like fig jam or honey are also a great option to bring in some sweetness to your board.
I mentioned this off camera. I always have a challenge in the way that I serve it. I don't necessarily make it pretty. So do you have any tips on how you can serve it and kind of wow your guests? In particular, as we get closer to the holiday season, this could be a great idea for guests.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much inspiration online, and I'm telling you, some boards are just works of art.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I always start by I place down the jars that I'm going to use on the board first, and then I sort of fill in and add in from there. So you kind of pick your categories, and then I just love to have an assortment, though. And then where you have open space, you can add in more of those garnishes or little berries or nuts and seeds, maybe something a little bit sweet. This time of year with the holidays, you could put in some pine cones or some bottle brush trees. Maybe some fresh eucalyptus also looks really beautiful. So lots of different ways to layer up that board and just start off by kind of looking at the different categories that you're about to serve.
All I can say is I cannot wait till we can get guests like yourself in studio here so I could taste test all of those
Me too.
wonderful choices. Karlene, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right, take care. Coming up after the break, Jeanette Ewan with her top 5 holiday hacks.